My brothers and sisters, may the Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. The disciples of Jesus recounted what had taken place along the way and how they had recognized him in the breaking of bread. While they were still speaking about this, he stood in their midst and said to them, "Peace be with you." But they were startled and terrified and thought that they were seeing a ghost. Then he said to them, "Why are you troubled? And why do questions arise in your hearts? Look at my hands and my feet, that it is I myself. Touch me and see, because a ghost does not have flesh and bones, as you can see I have." And as he said this, he showed them his hands and his feet. While they were still incredulous for joy and were amazed, he asked them, "Have you anything here to eat?" They gave him a piece of baked fish. He took it and ate it in front of them. He said to them, "These are my words that I spoke to you while I was still with you, that everything written about me in the law of Moses and in the prophets and Psalms must be fulfilled." Then he opened their minds to understand the scriptures, and he said to them, "Thus it is written that the Christ would suffer and rise from the dead on the third day, and that repentance for the forgiveness of sins would be preached in his name to all the nations, beginning from Jerusalem. And you are witnesses of these things." The Gospel of the Lord. As we continue this celebration of the octave of Easter, we find that the readings focus for us on those initial appearances of Jesus in the front of the disciples. And he surely was very busy that first Easter day as we have listening the last couple of days to the various encounters that happened. It began with his encountering Mary Magdalene, and initially she doesn't understand who it is. She thinks it's the gardener. And it's only when he begins to speak to her and once again makes the kind of a familiar relationship with her that she recognizes who he is. And then it continued yesterday when a few of the disciples on their way to Emmaus run into this stranger on the road, and again they have no clue that it is Jesus. It is only after he sits down with them at table and breaks bread that they recognize who he is. And of course, for the early church and forever since then, that has become the key way that we encounter the Lord, through the breaking of the bread at Eucharist and through the hearing of the scriptures and the Word. And then we find him again in that same day, that same Easter in the evening, returning after that in conversation with those two disciples to the room where all the disciples are gathered. And we see something happen kind of interesting between what occurred in the morning and what occurs at night, because in the morning, Mary Magdalene, once she realizes it's him, wants to touch him, and he very quickly says to her, "You can't touch me, I haven't yet gone to the Father." And all of a sudden, that evening now, he tells the disciples, "Touch me, look at my hands and my feet." And even make the point clearer for them that this was not just a ghost, it was not just some sort of a dream they were having. He says, "Give me something to eat," and he ends up eating a piece of fish in front of them to show the fact that he is indeed alive and well and active. All of these encounters then become the means and vehicle out of which they begin to reinforce within their own hearts the witness value of what they are to do from that point on. And as Jesus suggests to them today, and will again next Sunday, when he returns again with them in the midst of that same room, they are to go forth and to preach that message, to proclaim the fact that he is the Lord, to show that all of this had to happen so that in turn new life and new creation could take place. Well, the message hasn't changed. We're still called today to do the same. We are to be witnesses, as the disciples were in those early days, of what the Lord has done first and foremost for the entire world in giving us an opportunity again for salvation, but also specifically in the ways that he has come to us. And we must witness to that fact in how we live our lives, and how in turn we continue to proclaim to others that we have indeed seen the Lord. It may not be in the same way that those disciples initially encountered him, but it is nevertheless just as real, just as true as we gather at this table.